Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I'm going to be facing one of my nemesis from the 301 region. It is going to be Blue Hair, and it's going to be 2 videos. So we'll have to see how I perform. I'd say usually he has my number about 60% of the time, but hey, if we're on form, then anything can happen. Games are going to be timestamped down below. There's 2 of those, so look out for them. And, well, game 1, what do we have? I'm going to be playing my favorite specialist here with the elite spec, and I'm going to be up against sledgehammers and void eyes with a missile specialist. I would say that this is a fine matchup for him, because I kind of want to buy chaff, but level 2 crawlers get one shot by sledgehammers, which is the only starter unit that is capable of doing that. At least that is like kind of on the chaff clear side of things. Arclights can't one-shot level 2 crawlers, and neither can hounds. So that's a decent matchup. Of course, I will be playing asymmetrically here, so I've got the advantage, at least on round 1, of being able to kind of pressure the tower. We're setting up right side. I'm going to use 2 Void Eyes behind my Tarantulas, and then I'm going to use 1 Void Eye kind of in the middle to make sure that we don't get instantly locked by some of these Void Eyes, because they deal quite a bit of damage, and if they can manage to lock those Tarantulas fast, I wouldn't be too surprised if they die pretty fast. Looks like he's going to go for double Arclight here, and he gambles on one side, which seems to be the correct move. Little risky. If I'm on the left side here, it'd be in a slightly worse spot, but let's see how this works out. Of course, again, Arclight's not going to be able to one-shot those crawlers, but the sledgehammers can. Right side now, moving in, Void Eyes. Locking onto the wrong units. He's got 2 that are moving for my tower, but these units are not that fast. And looks like we should be the ones to get the tower first. Yeah, there we go. 9 seconds of debuff, and it's a useful one too because we're already engaged in a fight. And round 1 should be ours. Again, this is... if you play Elite, you should expect to win round 1. If not, something went terribly, terribly wrong. But let's see how round 2 goes here. Does it bring cards? Yes, it does. Quick Teleport is worth considering when you're playing aggro. Definitely a very good card. Round 2 on Elite is always a bit of a tricky one, because you can skip and have 450, and with the free unlocks on the starter units, you can buy one and then, or at least a 300 cost one, and still get 2 deployments out with a 150 cost unit. But here I decide to go for Fortified Hacker instead. This is a card that you don't see that often, but I think on Elite it has some merit into specific boards. Here I was thinking, alright, I'm Elite, I get the benefit of having level 2 units, and this card gets 500% bonus HP. That's a lot when you double it from level 1 to level 2. On top of that, Hacker is quite good into mid-sized units, and for now my opponent didn't have any chaff. He only has sledgehammers, arclights, and void eyes. So, because of this, Hacker seemed like a pretty decent thing to pick up. You will see me sell out of Tarantula, specifically because my opponent didn't really have that much chaff as of yet, and I didn't really feel like playing Tarantula into Sledgehammer Arc Void Eye because I think it might struggle against all of those semi-tanky units. So instead here we make a transition, and I hadn't clicked energy absorption just yet, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to buy some Mustangs because they pair nicely with the hackers. This does mean that we delay the hacker for a bit. Maybe I could have bought one on the left, but I think we had very awkward money where, because of the high unlock of hacker, I wouldn't have been able to buy 2 units, and so that's why we make this kind of intermediary play here. We will need Mustangs no matter what, so it's better to get the deployments out instead of skipping a deployment here to get a hacker on the board. I will say I didn't really position that well on the right side. I have this bad habit of sometimes not looking at my opponent's specialist and then regretting it, especially when it's missile specialist. Could have positioned way better and at least spread out my units a bit more so that he couldn't get this much value out of his missiles. Looks like we might win. Not entirely sure here. I mean, the Void Eyes are level 2, and they do have the absorption, which my opponent doesn't have yet. Let's see. Debuff. Not gonna come through, and we barely managed to take a win there. Round number 3 and we get 3 units, bunch of giants and Phoenix as well. Phoenix looks like probably the best thing to pick up here because it beats pretty much all of the other drops. Sandworm was definitely worth considering too though, as I already had Mustangs on the board, so if we invest enough into them and we win the ground hard enough, the Mustang should be able to kill Phoenix if he picks it up, but Phoenix is just a safe play, right? You just add that extra DPS, you can't get cheesed by things like Phantoms with armor or Wraith with armor. Just felt like the right thing to do here. Gonna pick up another Mustang on the right side, trying to line them up somewhat with these fangs my opponent has. And then pick up some levels on the Void Eyes as well. This way they get above the 3k HP mark, so the Void Eyes can't die to the missile strike anymore. And I'm trying to make sure I put this Mustang kind of in between my other units so that they don't get accidentally missiled. I also pick up a shield on the left because I felt like I wouldn't be able to break it. And it probably survives, right? These units are unranged, so they will get out of it. Let's see how this goes, though. Phoenixes are locked onto the sledgehammers. Mustangs trying their best, but my opponent went for Charge Shot Arclight. That is a little bit scary, as I don't have that much chaff yet myself. And, well, although I would kind of like to get into loose formation, I currently don't have the deployments to justify something like that. Luckily, the shield does survive. I'm happy about that. The Phoenixes decided to go towards the right side of my army. And now round number 4. Bunch of red spells. Ion Blast. Hard to skip on round 4. But I will go for Intensive instead here. Not sure I agree with that. I mean, Ion, there is some value to be had, but not the most. Mostly small units, and he's relatively spread out across the board, so I do get it. Opponent goes for Intensive as well, and mind you, he picked Extended Range Fortress on round 2. That is potentially something that we should worry about, although I will say Extended Range Fortress loses 30% hit points, so with the board that we have, we probably would be fine. On this round, I decided to pick up more crawlers. So as I said, I was somewhat trying to set up here for an eventual loose formation. And I also pick up another Mustang. I pick up the range, and we intensive this guy to level 3. Opponent has Charge Shot, and I kind of knew that he wouldn't be able to get range immediately here. And that means that the Mustangs, for now, outrange the Arclights. And as you can see, that works out in our favor. So a nice setup round as we start building a kind of back line of Mustang. And then we can add our front line probably now. Round number 5. And more free units to choose from. Farseer and Scorpion here are worth the most. Could pick those up. Could decide to go Scorpion if I want to. It's certainly not the worst into something like the Sledgehammers and the Void Eyes. But I decided to go for Farseer and sell it. I think if I wanted to keep the unit, then Scorpion probably would have made the most sense. Could have tried to line them up here with the other units, but we already kind of picked a card, right? We went for that Fortified Hacker. I think it makes sense as well into Sledgehammers, Void Eyes, and, well, the Scorpion that he added. So that's what we're gonna go for. And the added benefit is that it has access to Barrier. So here we sell one Farseer. We have one screening the right side, since that one didn't have anything yet, right? On the left, we have these Mustangs to kind of look out for any shenanigans. And with the sell, we're able to buy 2 Fortified Hackers and get the Barrier as well, which is always nice against those missiles. First attack has been picked up. That's kind of the most important, I would say, when you're playing something like, especially Mustang. They benefit a lot from bonus attack. And now opponent able to grab the range on his Arclights, as he too has picked the sell and went for some Scorpions. Let's see. How does this round play out? The missile doesn't really land. It softens up the Phoenixes that we have, but that's about all. Can this hacker lock on? Sadly, it's looking straight into a Scorpion, which is not ideal. And it is sadly going to perish without being able to take it over. So for now, Hacker is not really doing too much. I mean, they're tanking, I guess, which is not too bad. But the left side completely collapsing. And we're even going to lose our shield, as our right side doesn't quite die quick enough. So not the best of rounds. It seems like that range on the arc lights really helped out my opponent a lot. He's also done a good job of starting to build chaff, despite starting with none. And yeah, crawlers are very annoying for Mustangs to deal with. Even though I have 3 high-level Mustangs, it just isn't enough, it seems, to get through the chaff fast enough. This round, both of us decide to skip. There was a super heavy armor, but for those wondering, putting that on a hacker with fortified will just send it from 500 to whatever the bonus is. It's like 150% bonus. So you will go from 500 to 650, let's say, because it's additive instead of multiplicative. So it is very much diminished returns and not really worth it. This round I'm going to be selling my Farseer, returning some of that money, and we're going to be going for more crawlers because I did want to go into loose formation here if possible. Also, we're going to pick up another hacker. And yeah, there it is. Loose formation. And then 2 crawlers on top of things. Opponent pulls out the Abyss. And I certainly was not expecting this one. He is very much known for it. Blue hair. The 2 things that he loves is especially Wraith and Abyss as of late. He's also quite the hacker enjoyer, but this game I am the one playing hackers. And he manages to get both efficient maintenance and the swarm missiles on round 6. That is scary. That is very, very scary. Because Abyss is very good with the swarm missiles against Mustang. And well, that's exactly what I'm playing. It's also very good against kind of bigger stationary targets that have barriers like Fortress, but also like fortified hackers. So weirdly enough, it seems to be quite strong here. I guess the model of the hacker is slightly smaller than a fortress, so it shouldn't die as quickly, just because it doesn't get hit by the beam as much. But yeah, right side here is losing. Left side not doing too poorly, and keep in mind we still have those high-level Phoenixes to try and deal with this Abyss. Will it take down the tower, though? That's the question. Luckily, the swarm missiles didn't do so, and we will be able to... Yes, okay, we distract it. It doesn't go for a tower, and that means we are able to take it down. So a good bounce back. That'll send the opponent down to about 3k hit points. And now round number 7. Efficient giant manufacturing, enhancement module. None of these really that useful. Although, I guess we could pick the enhancement module. There is an intensive available if we so desire. But I'm not planning to play huge units here. So it'll be hard to make use of. And the intensive is off cooldown. On cooldown, sorry, right now. So not the easiest to make use of. And that's why I decided to skip. Opponent does the same thing. He can't put enhancement modules on Titans, so he doesn't go for it either. And instead of going into something like a Giant, which would have been, I guess, an option, try to get into Melter and throw the enhancement module on it and try to make some profit that way, I decided to go for Phoenixes. Because I already had a high level one, I run Charge Shot, and I know that it can be enough if they can lock on to those Abysses. Opponent picks up another one, levels it preemptively with Intensive, and again, some alarm bells probably should start ringing here for me, because if I look at this board, he's been slowly building that back line of chaff, and we're now looking at, what, 5 in the back, plus 3 more, 8 packs of crawlers, and all that I'm relying on right now is 3 high-level Mustang packs. Now, they're high-level, but that won't cut it if these start picking up some levels. And yeah, he's also remembering to level them. If Underground gets clicked here, Subterranean Blitz, then I might be in a world of hurt. For now, though, we also had to kind of address the DPS problem. So that's why we go for Phoenixes. And, well, hopefully we'll remember to buy some chaff clear. Let's see. Hacker tanking for now is gonna go down, not quite on the left, but yeah, look at these crawlers. They're still getting in the middle, and my Mustangs, well, they're doing what they can. They're very busy shooting at these crawlers, and we'll eventually get through, but by that point, my chaff is also gone. And yeah, we've got some arc lights here. Just farming all of my units. Tower is gonna go down simultaneously because of that swarm missile salvo. And that is a very, very painful round, as already the crawlers are starting to create problems for my comp. Round number 8, laser sight shows up. That's a pretty easy pickup there. Very nice value, great on my high level Mustangs, so didn't have to think too long about that. We go for charge shot on my Phoenixes, as we were connecting with the enemy abysses, but the damage just was nowhere near enough. Need to remember here to pick up the defense enhancement, which I did. That way level 2 Phoenixes can survive a missile strike. And opponent now going to get into Wraith. Yeah, he really loves that unit, always has, and well, it just so happens that the Abyss, which was added not too long ago, pairs rather nicely with it. Even it can spawn a Wraith if it so desires, and that's exactly what he goes for. Levels up one of the Abysses, goes for that 3rd tech Dark Companion, and double techs that Wraith with range and high explosive, which is going to make it a lot better against something like the loose formation crawlers, which have been annoying him a little bit at least. Now, I decided to pick up some arc lights along the way with range because, well, I felt like I had to, right? I could see that the crawlers were getting in, but I don't really have the deployments or the money right now to buy a ton of them, so will this be enough? I'm not entirely sure. We also intensive the Mustang, it's now level 6. Perhaps AP could have meant something, but in my experience, Mustangs are just never good into crawler, and if you click AP, your opponents can click Subterranean Blitz, and then everything kind of evens out and you're back to square one. Phoenixes, they are locking on, but the right side has just completely vanished for me. Lucky for us, the left seems to be faring a little bit better. As we do lock onto the bigger units, we get rid of one of the Abysses. We also take down that Wraith, but still, this big boy's still alive, and even if we win here, it's not gonna be a massive victory. Only with the small units that we have, we do get a debuff. That's not too terrible. And it looks like we will at least win. But yeah, that's like, what, 350 damage maybe? Not that much. We're gonna need way bigger swings if you want to ever take down our opponent. Round number 9, efficient light manufacturing shows up. That's a bit too late to really get value out of it. Another enhancement module pops up too. But yeah, I'm locked in at this point, right? I've made my decision that Phoenixes are my DPS. And now I basically need to try and get rid of those crawlers. Speaking of which, Subterranean Blitz has now been picked up. My opponent goes for even more crawlers. And, well, I decide to do what I can here by picking up more arc lights. One in the middle, one on the right. Using all the deployments I can by buying triple blue arc light. It's not going to be enough, though, sadly, to one-shot these blue crawlers with Subterranean, as they take 55% less damage whenever they're underground. And these arc lights, well, they're only capable of dealing 943. That's not going to be enough with these crawlers up to 637, and that's without that 55% damage mitigation. I am going to shield all the way in the back, just kind of to protect my crawlers, because I still felt like the loose formation was somewhat important, and really I didn't know what else to do with my money, because I'm deployment capped, right? I can only buy so many arc lights, and I'm thinking here maybe I should have just gone into Wraith myself. I'm not sure that arc lights are going to be enough, since well, they're starter units and they have that awkward breakpoint, right, against these Subterranean Blitz crawlers where I know I can't one-shot them. So probably should have used my money here instead of on shields to go for arc lights, but we'll have to see if this is enough. I do have the damage on the Phoenixes, they just need to connect. Both Abysses now level 2. That also means that those Wraith that are being spawned are level 2, and just look at the onslaught of crawlers. That is not looking good at all. Arc lights are doing what they can, but most of them will die. And yeah, still here on the right side you can see some of the crawlers are still alive, and my Phoenixes just can't connect. They cannot seem to find the target. And as both towers go down, we're going to be taking quite a bit of damage here. Even more than that, we are simply going to be dead. So, yeah, sadly a chaff clear problem there. Getting out of control real fast. I did identify it, but I don't think I went for the right pick. Should have gone for something like the Wraith. But yeah, tough one. Very strong game from Blue Hair, and I queued up into him in my very next game. So let's head over there. All right, here we are. Game number 2 against Blue Hair. Can we get our revenge? Having a look at my packs, got a bunch of Sledgehammer openers. Sledgehammer Arc, I have said before, I think probably the best opener you can get if you're planning to play more defensive around your tower. So I'm pretty happy with that. Fortified Specialist, not the best, but I mean, it's an easy one to play, right? You don't really need to think too hard. Your units are simply tankier. My opponent is an Amplify Specialist, and he's going to be starting with Tarantula Spider. Has those amp cores available. They're very, very nice on spiders, right? It's a unit that can use both the hit points and the bonus attack. And typically, I would expect someone to go aggro here. But it looks like my opponent plans to play standard, which was a bit of a surprise. Now, round number 1, I am probably looking to go marksman. I know that if I don't, I won't have the damage to kill those spiders, and I want to give myself at least a shot, right, at winning the first round here. On top of that, I will need some DPS down the line. I will need some anti-air, so marksman kind of fit that bill. And then next turn, we can start building our own chaff. Opponent goes double crawler. That makes sense, right? He's got all bases covered. DPS, chaff, clear, tank. Just needs the crawlers. And when you start Sledgehammer, by the way, this is a completely fine thing to do, right? Normally, you would want to pick chaff on round 1. But the main reason is because you don't want something like enemy marksman to lock onto your important unit. In this case, something like the Arclights and the sledge and the marksman. Sorry, but the Sledgehammers kind of have a similar role to chaff, where they're like a mid-sized tank. On top of the fact that they can help out with chaff clear and DPS, so they kind of fulfill the chaff role on round 1, and that means that you can just get away with a round like this, where you don't buy chaff, you let your Sledgehammers tank, and that is a way better result than if you were to try to play crawlers, right? Round number 2, bunch of very good blue items here being shown. Probably do want to pick those up. Their value is way higher than what you have to pay for them here, so they almost always will be good down the line. So I am going to pick up that heavy armor. Makes the most sense on my board. If I had Mustang or something, then improved firepower maybe would be better, but considering I have those Sledgehammers and they are tanking for me right now, the heavy armor seems to be the most sensible. Opponent takes a bit of time, and I am going to decide to pick up some chaff. Now, here I decide to go for fangs instead of crawlers. And the reason is because I could see that my Sledgehammers were tanking very nicely, and I was very happy with that. I think that is exactly how I want the round to play out. So ideally here, the Sledgehammers tank, and then the fangs, because they're a bit slower, they can arrive late when we hopefully have killed the enemy tarantulas, and then they can annoy the enemy DPS, right? The marksman. Whereas if I went crawlers, the crawlers would get in front of my Sledgehammers very quick, and then probably the tarantulas would be able to kill them. So that was the idea. Is that how it's going to work out? Well, not quite, right? You can see that my Arclights sadly lock onto the spiders from my opponent, and that means we now have a crawler problem. So not ideal. Would crawlers have fixed that? Probably not, but yeah, not a great round here, sadly. Opponent also going for a Sledgehammer pickup, by the way, with that heavy armor, so mirrors my board. But hey, Sledgehammers with heavy armor on round 2 are great, so I don't blame him. That's a very nice play. And now round number 3. Improved firepower control system shows up again. Really wants us to pick it up, I guess. And, well, Blue Hair will comply. Goes for that. Wasp Swarm, though, for me, seemed like a good pickup. I can see that both of his flanks here are wide open. And I wanted to try and regain some tempo if I could. If I can grab a sledgehammer level here, that's great. And again, I didn't really know what units to throw an improved firepower control system on. I think it's a bit weird to throw it onto like a sledge or a singular marksman. And instead I'm going to be buying some Stormcallers. Lately, Stormcaller with that AP has been looking mighty strong against things like Sabers and Tarantulas. So it's been something I've really liked to pick up, and you will see me do it in plenty of games, and well, this one will be no different. Opponent does kind of play around the Wasp by some Fangs. However, a level 1 Fang pack does not beat a level 1 Wasp drop. And so as you will see here in the top left, as he does take down some Wasps, still there's going to be about half still alive and enough to take down that tower. So we get a nice debuff, and that should help a lot here, as this time around we managed to kill the spiders with the help of those storms, and our arc lights are free to get rid of the enemy chaff. So a lovely round number 2. We didn't go for the scaling item, right? That's something our opponent picked up, but we did get some crucial experience, and we managed to deal some nice player damage as well. So happy with that round. And now we kind of get to see, well, what round 4 brings, which will be free units since we haven't seen them yet. There we go. Round number 4, Triple Phoenix, looking rather nasty. But both of us do have Marksman, so maybe it's not something we want to go for. I think it would have been fine to pick up. Phoenix is good into basically all the units offered. It's good into Sledgehammer, it's good into Tarantula, so you'd be fine picking it here. However, I'm thinking, what about the Scorpion, right? If my opponent picks Fire Badger or Hound, then Scorpion's not a bad idea. And it is awfully high level. Level 3 Scorp round 4 is gonna be hard for him to kill. And I was struggling a little bit to take down this Sledgehammer pack. So we pick up the Scorp instead. And we're gonna be placing it behind our Sledgehammers, facing his. And look at that. Opponent goes for Fire Badgers with range. And yeah, well, safe to say I was rather happy about finding out about this when the round started, because that gives the Scorpion even more targets to shoot at. Interestingly, he's selling out a spider, right? He had 3, I believe, but decides to get rid of them now and transition some of the items onto the Fire Badgers. I also go for AP on my Stormcallers. Super, super cheap. If you're facing anything or any army that has some really tanky boys, like some spiders, it's almost always worth clicking. Such a cheap tech. And even if your opponent decides to get into interception, you didn't really pay that much for it. So it's just an insanely valuable tech right now. Lots and lots of Heimdall players are making use of it. Opponent going for Phantoms and immediately going Sticky Oil Bomb. So this play definitely wasn't something that I was considering. But yeah, now that I see it, I know what the plan is, which is setting my board on fire with Fire Badgers and Oil Phantom Rays. I haven't played into this recently. It's not a comp that has been that popular, I would say. But it's doing pretty well on the right side. He's getting to my tower. The Scorpion, still alive, is going to be tanking. But can I keep my Marksman alive? Because if the Marksman perishes, then we're not going to be able to kill those Phantoms. Looks like we should be fine. There we go. He shakes off the debuff right on time. Gonna be turning as well to deal with those Fire Badgers. But still, some Fangs alive there, and that is not a nice spread, as this will be an extremely close round. And looks like we do win, but only by 1 Stormcaller. So, super close. Round number 5. Portable shield shows up. That seems like a super, super good item to pick up. I'd be surprised if I skip it. Yeah, exactly. Very powerful. Gonna throw it on the Scorpion. Suddenly it goes from having 74,000 hit points to effectively having about 148. Sorry. My brain lags there for a second. Almost 150,000 effective hit points. So yeah, that is quite a lot. And I decided to pick up Siege Mode, since it's one of my favorite techs as of late. I will admit, I don't like Scorpion that much, mostly because I think it's not good. I actually do think it's a very satisfying unit, but it's not something I get to play that often. But when my opponent goes for sledgehammers in a long-range fight, don't mind if I do. Siege mode also, I think, has good scaling late game into things like marksman or giants. So it's something that I was willing to try, and because I have the level advantage here, I know that I'll still be able to one-shot those sledgehammers and fire badgers, even though I will be losing out, right, on some of the damage here, losing 40% for that 100-meter bonus range. We also pick up another Scorpion on the right side. This one won't be able to one-shot the fire badgers, sadly, but hopefully it'll be able to pick up some levels. And I decided to pick up 2 crawlers on the front. This is something that I think is very important against these type of phantom fire badger comps, or whatever they want to try and use to set the ground ablaze. Because what it does is make the phantoms kind of shoot their first salvo on their side of the board. And that makes a big difference, because now I don't have to worry about chaff here, right? He is burning his own crawlers alongside my chaff. And that's a trade I'm willing to take. I have very tanky units as well. I have sledgehammers. I have big scorpions with a lot of range, and those are not going to be burning anytime soon. So as you will see, we do pretty well. Sadly, though, I get scammed. My marksmen, now having less range than my siege mode scorpions, get in front, and as I was about to kill this phantom ray, sadly it takes down my marksman. And so, yeah, we lose to air here. Although 65 seconds left, this is a very, very beefy Scorpion. Maybe it is just going to be a tie. Not a bad round altogether, though. I'm happy with that crawler distraction. I think the fire landing on his own side of the board looked good. And I think the siege mode was also performing rather well. And yeah, now we're just waiting for this Scorpion, the tank, all of the remaining missiles from the Phantom Ray. It does have a very cool animation. Look at that. Keeps reloading all of the missiles individually. But that won't be enough to win the round. Round number 6. More unit reinforcements. And I decided to pick up the Wasps because neither of us has any answer to them. And the answer is also not available in the unit drop. So picking it up makes sense. I was expecting him to do the same. And so I decided to go for range immediately here. Wasps are also one of the main counters to things like Phantoms, so it seemed like a sensible play to make, especially when he's setting the board on fire. It might not be as easy to get into Mustang, right? Because Mustangs do not like fire one bit. And to get ahead, I'm going to be buying more Wasps here, just to make sure that if he tries to go for a similar play, I should have the advantage being or having them at level 2. We did elite recruit them. And now let's see. Opponent's gonna try and match my crawlers here, just to make sure that they don't advance too far forward, and to prevent or at least limit the amount of damage that these Phantom Rays are going to be doing to his own board. The positioning here, by the way, is a little bit important on the crawlers. If you place them vertically, they can't get missiled out. The opponents will be able to hit them, but the back crawlers, the back 2 or 3, will still survive. And that can make a big difference, right, when you're trying to make sure that the opponent, well, fires the oil bombs at your units. And so yeah, big fire puddles, kind of on the line this time, but that's still something I'm pretty happy with. And the thing here is I don't need to buy crawlers, per se. It's way better for me to just buy fangs, because as you can see, the fangs are really slow and they're ranged, so they have a tendency not to move into the fire too much. Of course, as I say that, some of them are burning, but it's way better than something like crawler, which would just, well, definitely find its way into the flames. And that's a really good round, by the way. That's a massive round. Stormcaller, Scorpions, and Wasps still alive, and suddenly the opponent goes down from 3k to 1200. Round number 7. And, well, Lightning Storm looks kind of juicy and hard to skip. I wasn't too happy about this one showing up, since I do have some wasps on my own board, so yeah, not ideal. But I can definitely do some damage with this as well. Opponent has a bunch of low-level phantoms, has some wasps, has chaff, and well, in general, Storm just performs really well against mid-sized and smaller units. Opponent, again, this is a trend. He loves Wraith. So Wraith is what we are going to be seeing, with range and high explosive ammo now being picked up. And he elite recruits 3 of them. Now, wasps do beat Wraith if you have the AA tech. It's a bit of a like back and forth. It depends on whether or not the wasps actually have like a clean line of sight of the Wraith. If the Wraith ever connects with something like HE, it will get rid of the wasp pack very quickly. But range-wise, the wasps will have the advantage. And yeah, this round I decided to pick up AA. Even though there is a Storm, I felt like I kind of had to preempt any shenanigans. It's going to be good against the Phantoms, which he's going to be keeping regardless. It's good against the Wasps as well. And, well, as I find out, it's going to be useful against those Wraith too. The only downside is I might lose a few of them, but at least the outside will be safe. I also have my Wasp Swarm available again, but yeah, as you can see, if the Wraith locks on, it gets rid of them very fast. And it's mostly going to be about kind of finding a way to save my Wasps, or at least keep something in front of them. Left side is not looking too bad, although again, I think the Wraith was able to connect. And, well, while my Marksman is locking on right now, it is awfully beefy. Gonna be losing my right side tower, sadly, and, well, because of that, I might just lose my Marksman. I do, which is a little bit sad, because I think if we take out that Wraith, we win the round. This is still a level 3 Scorpion, still 150,000 hit points, and I think the Marksman could have sat safely while the Wraith was targeting it. Although I say that, it does have more range than the Marksman, so maybe that's not true. Either way, we do keep the shield from the looks of it, so it's not all bad, as this takes an awful long time. Scorpion, out of spite, going to be taking down both the towers, and will eventually fall. It's a big round, though, for my opponent. Even manages to level up a Wraith instantly, which is not the easiest to do. Round number 8, Assault Scorp shows up. Not the most expensive card, and I do think that it's an upgrade. Very, very good in combination with the Assault mode as you get back some of that attack interval that you lost. I am going to level my Scorpion here as well, as it doubles that damage, right, from level 1 to level 2, and then we get to a break point where we would be able to at least one-shot the level 2 fire badges. I also decided to go for a oil play myself, kind of setting the opponent's board on fire even further back, and I don't really need to do anything for it. As long as it lands, then the opponent will set it on fire themselves. And I decided to pick up more Wasps. I feel like that round was mostly decided by the Storm getting rid of my Wasps, and well, buying more should give me a little bit more room to hopefully lock onto these guys and take them down. I also go for anti-air on my Marksman. I have 2 that are pretty high level. I probably need to buy some more, but for now, I think the Wasps should do a good job. And let's see. Of course, temp range here going to be very important. Opponent decides to match my Wasps by picking up level 1s and also double teching them. Gonna be an interesting one. We run the same techs, basically, with both of us also having access to the energy shield, but for now I have the level advantage, while he has the Wraith advantage. The annoying bit is that it might prevent my Marksman from locking on, but yeah, let's see. On the right side, we do manage to lock on pretty fast, so that Wraith going to collapse. On the left, things are looking a bit more dire. Marksman is locked on, but man, that Wraith is very tanky with the heavy armor. Basically like level 5, level 5.5 or so, but now it's getting flanked. And that's not too bad. However, that debuff. Not ideal. Wraith managing to lock onto my Wasps. Gonna take a bunch of them down. Luckily, I still have a Marksman, so we should be able to win this. And again, the Scorpion at the end of the round doing a great job of tanking. And is that enough? No, it's not. 234 is what my opponent is left with. Round number 9. More unit reinforcements. Is anything in here useful? Void Eyes could be decent, maybe with EMP. But at the same time, I guess Farseer is just better, right? You get the same amount of deployments, you can give it range, and you can give it EMP. It's more consistent. I think that makes more sense. Could also go for Melting Point, I guess. If I just want to try and lock onto those donuts. But I felt like the Farseer here was just too good value. I have some Marksmen with AA as well that are high level. I could buy more, so I feel like I should just kind of rely on those to do the trick. And if I can land some EMP onto these Wraith, then that should help a ton as well. Opponent's gonna go preemptively, by the way, for Overlords with Photon. So he's expecting some type of EMP play here, which I guess makes sense. It's like the one thing that he could potentially lose to. Farseer was offered, Void Eye was offered, so Photon makes sense. At the same time, though, the Overlord doesn't really provide anything else. It's a big, beefy 500 cost giant, but it will perform really badly into AA Marksman and AA Wasp. So it's an expensive play, but he is correct. I did buy a bunch more Farseer. We were offered 3. We buy 2 more. We get that range to keep them safe. We get the EMP to hopefully turn off some of these techs. And let's see how that goes. The Photon, by the way, that will last for 20 seconds. So there is a good chance as well that the fight just, you know, goes on for so long that eventually my Farseer are able to apply that EMP. And let's see. Wasps here trying to lock on, trying to find their mark. Are they going to connect? Yes, they are. Although the Wraith is doing the same thing. Photon now running out. Farseers are applying EMP, but sadly, it seems like all of my Wasps have already gone down. Marksman doing what it can, but now my opponent is getting awfully close to my tower. Marksman trying to lock on, not quite able to in this Wraith, even though it doesn't have any techs left. It is mighty tanky. Farseer trying to do what it can, but it's just not really built right now at level 1 to get rid of all of these tanky anti-air units. Scorpion still doing a great job, but eventually opponent will get that tower debuff. And that does look like the Overlords will come out victorious. So I said, you know, they're big, they're beefy, they're not going to be doing much, but they do end up winning the round here. And so this will have to go to round 10. We don't take that much damage, only 400. So I would still say that we're in a good spot. And round number 10, Orbital Javelin shows up. That is just a must pick. There's no way that I'm skipping that. However, all of these level 3 Wraith, when they're coated with Photon, are able to survive a Javelin hit. So that is not ideal. Some things I could kill, though, are these Fire Badges. The Port Shield gets ignored by Javelin, so that's always nice to keep in mind. I could kill a boat if I want to. And that is what we're going to try and go for here. Trying to hit that Overlord. Which my opponent did level. And opponent going to pick up the Jav as well. Going to be using that on the right here to try and kill a Marksman and kill my Scorpion. The left one, of course, is completely safe. Even if that Port Shield gets ignored, it has 113,000 hit points of itself. Again here, temp range is a must pick in these rounds. You cannot forget to click it. Especially in these type of mirror scenarios, you have to have the same range. Or more, that's always better. But if you have like access to Elite or something, but you cannot forget to click this. And opponent adds another boat here on the left. So actually, now the boats will be covering each other as I decide to buy 3 more blue Marksmen. And the opponent's also going to go for Wasp Spawn now. So he's managed to guess correctly here that I'd be jamming the left side and manages to protect his boat. I guess it does make sense. The left side was more valuable to hit, right? I could hit that Fire Badger and kill it. Right side, though, this time around, I'm not too sure what happened, but the Wasps are able to insta-lock that Wraith, and it's just going to go down. Left side, we're still struggling. We're kind of running out of Wasps here, but the Photon is also no longer available. And now, my additional Marksman and my Farseer applying that EMP are kind of able to just get through from the looks of things. And let's see, how does this play out? It looks very sketchy, I will say. The Farseer is able to lock onto that boat. And the Marksmen are in a very precarious spot, I would say. But we are able to just about kill all of those air units and take a win. Crazy, crazy second game. And we are able to equalize the score, thankfully. So yeah, these were some interesting games. It's always nice to play Blue Hair. It's a very distinctive playstyle. And yeah, if you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down below what you thought of these games. If you want to see me play live, please check me out on Twitch. If you want to stay up to date on the latest content, please consider subscribing. And with that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.